A big upgrade is coming to Alpine for the Belgian Grand Prix this weekend. They are starting with a new floor. Now, this is important because they have been doing awfully lately. They have been getting dominated by the McLarens, the Aston Martins lately. But trust me, it's not completely their fault. Think back to the British Grand Prix. They did put a new front wing as an upgrade. However, there was an oil leak for Esteban Ocon, and Pierre Gasly was hit by Lance Stroll when he was actually challenging for a points finish. Then you go to the Hungarian Grand Prix. Both of them are taken out on the first lap. Okay, so we have an upgrade that we really didn't see the results of at the British Grand Prix. Then we couldn't see any of the results at the Hungarian Grand Prix. And on top of that upgrade for the front wing, they are now upgrading the floor, which maximizes the downforce. And the floor is pretty much the most important new changed regulation in these new generation Formula One cars. It's the biggest effect. That's why you see Red Bull dominating so much, because Adrian Newey wrote his dissertation for his PhD in engineering on ground effects, which is the most important part of the Formula One car in these generational eras. Okay, so with this upgrade, should they be coming back into the fold? Now, what I have ranked for the Formula One teams right now is you have Red Bull first, you have probably McLaren after the last two Grand Prix second. I don't know how long they'll hold that on for. Third, you'd probably Mercedes, Ferrari fourth, Aston Martin, and now them. Now, they looked pretty mid-pack at the start of this season, but they've fallen back entirely. These two new upgrades should balance them out to at least fight Aston Martin, okay? If not, crawl up a little bit. Maybe could they possibly challenge a Mercedes? I don't think so yet. But this should be huge news for them, because both of these drivers have not been able to accomplish what they have been able to in the past, and this team hasn't. Now, Ocon's leading Gasly by double his points in the championship. Gasly doesn't really have that much going on. Ocon has secured a third-place finish, which is pretty good for this team, because everybody thought Alonso was crazy for going to Aston Martin, leaving this team, which was much better, but now this team has had nothing but problems ever since. Now, is the Alpine able, with the new resources put in, there's a lot of people investing in the team, should they be able to turn this around? I don't know, because you have teams that if they did everything correctly, if they didn't have the reliability issue, and this is a big thing with this team. Last year with Alonso, they had reliability issues on his car. They seem to have the most reliability issues out of any team. And it usually affects one of the two drivers, if not both sometimes. So that's really what the Alpine car and the team really has to focus on. Not only do they have to use these two upgrades to make their car faster, they have to get out the issues with the cars stopping. Now, it's important in this article that they stated that they use upgrades sparingly. So unlike other teams that come with huge upgrades, like you've seen with the McLaren, I guess you could say you saw huge upgrades with the Red Bull last week in Hungary, but don't you think they were going to be dominated anyways? This team has the type of resources and the way they go about things with Otman Sazvanauer and the other people who own the team. They implement upgrades sparingly. So they'll implement an upgrade here, they'll wait a couple races, put something smaller here, so that they're under the budget cap. They don't like to put in a huge thing at once, because they think then all the money spent there won't be able to be spent later on in the Formula One season. I think Ocon probably needs a better driver next to him if he wants these big upgrades to really challenge him, because Ocon's a better driver than Gasly. Gasly is a journeyman driver to the extreme, and if you put someone in there, perhaps, comment below. I'm just brainstorming off the top of my head right now. Could you put in a Mick Schumacher there with the skills he has? I think he probably has higher skills than Gasly when it comes to being the top. Or could you put in a Carlos Sainz there when he loses his contract here at Ferrari? We'd have to see. But Alpine is a team that really is fighting for a ton of money right now, because they're ranked 6th in the championship. They're nowhere near McLaren, and they're way ahead of Williams. So they're kind of in no man's land. So how do you get the intensity, the focus that you need to get this car somewhere? Well, got Ocon a third in Monaco, but then again, that's Monaco. This team needs to reinvest like McLaren did. McLaren saw how badly they were doing. They got all these upgrades. You know what Alpine really needs to do? They need to start stealing people the way other teams did. McLaren stole a lot of staff. Mercedes have a lot of staff stolen, but are trying to get older Red Bull workers to come to their team. Aston Martin has put in a huge amount of money invested by the owner, Lawrence Stroll, into making the team what it is now, and Ferrari will always be Ferrari. But Alpine is in bad news right now. They are becoming one of the bottom tier. If they fall one more place down after a season, if this resurgence in Williams is getting better and better, in the next season or 2 seasons, they could even drop down being near the Haas and the Alfa Romeo. And another big thing is AlphaTauri is going to revert back to their team of old. They're going to be Scuderia Toro Rosso. And Helmut Marko is going to say, let's go about designing the car as closely to the Red Bull as we can within the rule set. That means that AlphaTauri could literally go from the worst team right now to possibly in the mid-pack like they were seasons ago. I mean, they had one chance at winning 5th in the championship, which they said was Franz Tost, the director and team principal's most prized possession, but they weren't able to do it. They just got nicked that season that Verstappen won. But we'll have to see, because Alpine right now is just totally struggling to do all the things they thought they were going to do. They thought they'd be ahead of the Aston Martin. They thought they'd be better than the McLaren. And now they're not even fighting among the top 4 teams. They should be fighting with, how bad the Ferrari and Mercedes are, and they're just not. They're not getting anywhere near it. And I know you've seen the famous names on the news. You got, Ryan Reynolds and Rob McElhaney from Always Sunny in Philadelphia saying, oh, yeah, we're getting this huge group of famous people together, and we're going to invest heavily in this team. It's not just about investment. It's so much about the personnel. These guys have to start poaching people from other teams, possibly get a new team principal. The only thing I always liked about Ottoman Safnauer is that he let the 2 drivers fight between them. So maybe we're going to see more battle between these guys, but I don't think so, because Gasly's not on Ocon's level. Their biggest quality right now they could use that finance for is developing the car better than they ever have, stealing more personnel, and, Gasly signed for so many years. He could have paid that guy $1 million, but they paid him like $10 million per season. They could use that money too, trust me, to lure better people away. So maybe they got to start being the team that pays you nothing but gives you a mid-tier seat, so maybe you can show some of the top teams that you deserve to be there when you get great results there. If you have a disagreement about this, if you think they're better than they are, or they're worse than I've described, which I don't know how you could come to that conclusion, please comment below. Also, like and subscribe the video so we can grow this channel. Thank you.